Good, sir.
Welcome again to edTPA. But at this time, you should have in front of you the packet entitled Task 2 or Session 2. I did not receive any emails at napolia@stjohns.edu from the first presentation. So therefore, I was either absolutely clear, or as a result of my presentation, you may have fallen asleep because it is very, very didactic. And as I said, this is not the way to teach in a classroom. Task 2 of the edTPA deals with the video component. And through the offices of Dr. Cho, we are able to purchase 50 cameras, which will be distributed to your mentor or consultant, for those of you who are student teachers, and also to your supervisor or consultant for those of you who are fellows. And this will give you an opportunity to practice videoing. Please keep in mind that you cannot be helped in the videoing of the lesson that you're going to be sending to the state, nor can you be helped in regards to the commentary that you have to make. Now, on the planning segment, which is the first segment, we're going to go back to that today. You have to write 9 pages of commentary responding to each of the prompts. It has to be single space, and it cannot be larger font than font 11. For the instruction commentary that is dealing with the video, you have to write a commentary of 6 single space pages, again font 11, responding to all of the questions. I'm going to speak of this a little bit later, but I want to go back to the planning commentary for a moment, because it's very, very important that you may want to choose the lesson plan for the task 1 to be used for task 2. Keep in mind, when they speak about a lesson plan, they're speaking about a learning segment. And a learning segment, I have copies in your task 2 folder, comprises 3 to 5 lessons. And as I said last time, I developed a learning segment on the Vietnam War for high school students, and that comprises, I think, 5 different lessons taken over 5 periods. If you are teaching single periods, if you're block periods, I was able to do it in 2 blocks. Everything I recommend comes from there. You will notice that there is in the first segment a reference to the Common Core standards. And I want to make reference to that. And in your packet, there are the Common Core standards for writing and reading, grades 6 through 12. You could get the, and at the end of the packet, there's an outline of the Common Core standards for math. And of course, math is task 4 for childhood education. So, the Common Core standards, of course, is causing controversy, not because of the substance of the standards, but because of the amount of testing that's going to be taking place in the state. And as you read the news and so forth, you can see that even here out in Long Island, Diane Ravitch spoke to parents about the testing situation and even encouraged them to boycott the test. And that has happened in several districts. But if you look at the substance of the Common Core standards, and I'm looking at right now the writing standards for grade 9 to 10, you can see that teaching this way really will enhance their critical thinking skills and at the same time their writing skills, which is reported all over that this appears to be a problem with students. I'm making a generalization, but it appears that students are reading less and also writing less. And the standards are aimed at improving their reading and their writing. So I'll just take, if you're on page 58 of what I handed you, which is the top page of this, you can see that in writing grade 9, you are to be able to, the students be able to write arguments to support claims in analysis of substantive topics or text, using valid reasoning and relevant and sufficient evidence. Explore and inquire into areas of interest to formulate an argument. So then they break it down. So that in the planning of a lesson, you would put down, if you wanted to approach this, Common Core standards, grade 9, 10, number 1, and then either A, B, C, D, or E. You don't have to write it out. I suggest that you do write this out in your objectives. So I'll go to the shortest one on the number 1, which is E. Provide a concluding statement or section that follows from and supports the arguments presented. Maybe I should go back to A. Introduce precise claims, distinguish the claims from alternate or opposing claims, and create an organization that establishes clear relationship among claims, counterclaims, reasons, and evidence. This involves a high level of critical thinking. That critical thinking has to be therefore put into writing, and you may have an objective aimed that way. Let me go to a 6th grade writing objective. That's on page 56 of this particular packet. Write narratives to develop real or imagined experiences or events using effective technique, relevant descriptive details, and well-structured event sequences. 3A, engage and orient the reader by establishing a context and introducing a narrator and or characters, organize an event sequence that unfolds naturally and logically. So you can see that the Common Core standards are rather rigorous, and we think that they should be rigorous. And at the same time, they're very, very controversial because of the texting that came about. The edTPA has put out, edTPA has put out a planning commentary direction to be used, and it's this particular form. So I'll give you a minute to pull this out. And you can see on this form that the planning commentary includes not only the prompt, but also the answer to the prompt. I hope you're with me. It's this form here. It says edTPA. It says Elementary Literacy Planning Commentary. So the first one is describe the central focus and purpose for the content you will teach in this learning segment. Notice the example. I'm going to read the whole example out as to the type of thing that they would expect. The central focus for the content I will teach during this learning segment is based on the concept of making inferences. Students will develop an understanding of a new academic vocabulary through the gradual release of responsibility model, Gambrell et al. 2007. That's the theory. You have to include the theory. And at the last session, I said to you, if you would like a copy of a booklet dealing with the various theories, I can send that to you. You just have to email me making that request and provide me your address, because I don't know if I have it on electronically. I think I do, and then I'll send it to you electronically. This is to help you review the theories that have to be incorporated. Let me just continue. The strategy of making an inference will first be modeled to students, followed by scaffolded guided practice, where students and I share the responsibility for learning. Ultimately, responsibility will be released to students for the final summative assessment at the end of the learning segment. The end of the learning segment will be the last lesson that this teacher has prepared, where students are writing and interpreting inferences independently, etc. I'm not going to read the whole paragraph. Notice the sophistication of the language being used, and also notice the reference to theory, and also notice that you're going to have to practice doing this. Now, I understand that there will be an edTPA course for both childhood student teachers and also for adolescent student teachers being taught next semester. There will be a part 3 to this, and this is going to be made on the digitized segment of the edTPA, and you can always make a reference to that. If you go to the elementary lesson plan segment, which is this form here, this is also in your packet. I'll give you a second to find it. Okay. This here is also an example. This is lesson 1 of 3. And in this example, what are your goals for student learning and why are they appropriate for these students at this time? Okay, this is a specific type of lesson plan format that you do not have to follow. You may have your own lesson plan format, but the lesson plan format must respond to what the planning of task commentary makes reference to. So what are your goals for student learning and why are they appropriate for these students at this time? Explicit instruction of making inferences outside of the context of a novel in order to better explain how to read the lines. This lesson serves as the foundation of the learning segment in order to introduce the academic vocabulary word inference to students. And remember the last session I gave you a glossary of terms dealing with the academic vocabulary, and you have to use that in the writing of your prompts. On your commentary, reference to the prompts. A series of examples will be provided where the process of making an inference will be modeled and practices. Inference will be made by analyzing cartoons, comics, images, riddles, bumper stickers, and silent movies. This here is for a grade 5 class. And then it goes into some of the activities that will be taking place. If you follow this through, and I'm not going to go through all of this, if you follow this particular thing through, this particular elementary lesson segment, which comprises 3 lessons, you can see how thorough the teacher has been in the lesson planning. If you now go to the secondary history lesson plan, which is entitled World War II Unit, Rise of Dictators, 90 Minutes. This comes out of the Tennessee. I received this for the Tennessee State Performance. This lesson plan also includes copies of the primary sources to be used. And that's all in this packet which I put together for you. What I can say about this, if you go down to this particular teacher's content learning objectives, and I'll start with the first one. Students will define totalitarianism, fascism, communism, Nazism, and nationalism. Okay, so that's an objective for the content, rather low-level objective. Students will define. Students will compare and contrast the rise of Stalin, Mussolini, Hitler, and Japanese militarists. Pretty good, very good objective. Students, I assume that's going to be done in essay form. Please keep in mind there's a difference between writing an essay for comparison and an essay for contrast. And then students will match political ideologies, etc. The only thing I would add to this is the fact that he does not, or she does not, put into effect or state in the objectives the Common Core standard that's being addressed. You may think I'm skipping around now. If you recall from the last segment, assessment, which is task 3, which we'll get to next time and more in depth, has to appear throughout task 1 and task 2. So in this particular lesson plan, there should be an example of both informal and formal assessments. And there aren't, and that's very, very important. Although at the end of the lesson plan, which is the second page, he does speak of the, he does use the word assessment, but I'm not too sure what exactly he wants to do. Does he want to have the students learn and be able to describe in their own words the definition of these various terms, informal? And then the assessment is if there's any student who is not having difficulty with this, he has to revisit this. Have students match dictated and political ideology and discuss an informative assessment on how well the students read the assigned pages, and then a guided question. The guided question is formative assessment on how well the students read the assigned pages and synthesize the similarities between the dictators. If those are the assessments, and we don't have time to do this, as you look through the lesson plan, okay, and this is a lesson plan for only day 1, okay, with all the materials in here, okay, I believe I included the lesson plan for day 2 in here. Yes, I did, and day 3 in here. At some particular point, you have to make sure that he is teaching to those assessments. Okay? Again, any questions? What I just told you is rather complicated and difficult and lengthy. You have to email me at naplya@stjohns.edu so I can answer any questions you may have on this. Because I think what I just gave you sounds to be maybe very complicated to you. Don't forget, at the same time, you can come up to my office, make an appointment. I'm in room 525 at Sullivan Hall to come and meet with me to discuss these particular issues. I will see Dean Willis so she can reinforce that my willingness to come and meet with you. So, let's for a moment move on. And let me discuss a little bit more the issue of the videotaping. This should be, they recommend 15 to 20 minutes. I watch videotapes, and I think it's important that they not only see you in action, but they also see you in action and the students also in action. Each of your schools has a sign-out sheet where the parents give permission for their child to be videotaped. And also there's a sign-out sheet that has been developed by St. John's University, and you can receive a copy of that by emailing Pedota, P-E-D-O-T-A-P, at stjohns.edu. And that is to be signed before this takes place. So you have in hand all these sign-in sheets. Here are some of the problems. Which lesson or lessons are shown in the clips? Identify the lessons by lesson plan number. That's why I encourage you to use the same lesson segment that you used for writing your commentary in regards to the planning. You don't have to, but if you use another lesson plan, a different one, you have to attach that to task 2. They have to see the specific lesson by the plan number. So this is lesson number 1 of a plan number dealing with inferences, as I just mentioned to you. Second part of this, identify scenes in the video clips where you provided a positive learning environment. That's important. That has to be there. How do you show that you have rapport with the students? How do you show that you're responsive to various student needs? The backgrounds of students and the challenges to students, etc. This takes more than simply smiling through the videotaping. You have to demonstrate that you are maybe working with an individual student who's an English language learner, something of that nature, dealing with the student who's having difficulty, but dealing with that student in a very, very positive way. I also encourage you to have a classroom that demonstrates, as a result of what's being presented on the walls, etc., a warm type of environment. Now, you may think that that's unnecessary. That is very, very necessary. There's nothing wrong with each day you greet your students as they come to the classroom with a nice smile and good morning. You may not feel that way, but you want to create a positive atmosphere. If you know, for example, if I found out that the parent was ill, I would stop the student on the way in and say, "John, how's your father doing?" Whatever the case may be. That's the type of relationship that must be developed and must become evident in this clip. You must, in the clip, also make reference to examples of explanations. Explain how your instruction engaged students in developing an essential, in this case, is a literacy strategy and a requisite skill. So within this 15 and 20-minute block, as you go through task 2, you will see that there are a number of things that the clip has to represent. This clip will then be sent to the state, but through Dr. Cho, you can you are to send also what you send to the state to Dr. Cho's office. Now, Dr. Cho's in the room, and I just want to confirm that. So Dr. Cho, so he just confirmed that with a nod of yes. Okay, so that this would be digitized, and we would hold a copy of this here at St. John's University. This is all of your commentaries for task 1, task 2, task 3, and for those of you involved with task 4. Okay, and the video, all of that, a copy of what you sent to the state must be sent to Dr. Cho, TJOEE at stjohns.edu. And that's very, very important. And we're going to make sure student teachers at this particular point do that, and do that in a way that you're finishing this in the spring, because you will not be able to teach in the fall without going through this process and passing. Now, I'll get to the specific rubrics later this morning. There are 15 rubrics by which you are going to be evaluated. And I have a copy of that in your folder. Please don't go to that now. Just pay attention. Each of those rubrics has 5 areas or 5 levels, 1 being the lowest and 5 being the highest. So if you multiply 5 by 15, the highest score that you could get is 75. I was fortunate to work on the Chancellor's Committee to determine what would be a passing grade. And just last week we received from the state that has been determined that a passing grade would be for you to receive a 42 out of 75. Now, Professor Pedota and Professor Mistretta have volunteered to be scorers, and they're going to have a number of scorers in order to see the demands. Personally, I think 42 is low, but that's an editorial comment. But that's all you will need in order to pass and become certified in your initial certification by passing the edTPA. It's a 42 out of 75. There's a segment here on the videotaping, analyzing your teaching. Refer to examples from the clips in your explanations. How did your instruction support learning for the whole class and students who need greater support or challenge? Remember, you're going to be writing a prompt on this. So you probably would want to make reference to the segment of the clip that demonstrates this. Not probably. I'm going to say, please make sure that your written commentary includes references to the part of the clip. So you may say, from minutes 3 through 5, you would see me demonstrating engaging students in learning. And then in your writing of the prompts, you'll further explain that to them. That is to the state. That's, again, all of this, task 2 is related to task 1 in the planning segment. Let me just go down to the bottom of task 2. in which you have to respond to what changes would you make to your instruction to better support student learning of the central focus. If you notice, under analyzing teachers, you don't notice because you don't have this in front of you, but under analyzing teachers, you have to consider the variety of learnings in your class who may require different strategies. That's almost a repeat of what you did in writing the commentary for task 1. It seems like a duplication, but you may write the same type of thing of how you dealt with that particular issue. Okay? The clip only refers to how did your instruction support learning for the whole class and students who need greater support or challenge. The prompt and your commentary to that prompt can be the same as the commentary to the prompt that you did in regards to your planning task 1. Okay. Now, please go to these rubrics that I made reference to. Now, this is the rubric for planning for elementary literacy instruction. We also have rubrics for that I can distribute for early childhood, social studies, science, and math. If you would like a copy of any of those rubrics, simply email me them to me, and I will send you electronically this with a specific area. So you'll get the rubrics for social studies. What's interesting, when you get those rubrics for a specific content area, and you compare the rubrics to this rubric, you'll see some little difference, but there is a difference. So the first rubric deals with planning for literacy learning. Again, I'm using this solely as an example. This is not the only rubric to be used. So if I'm going to be an evaluator up for the state, and I'm going to be evaluating social studies teachers, I will be using a different rubric. And that's what we did when we worked up in the state and this committee of 19 to come up with a grade, a passing grade for the edTPA. Now, as I said to you before, the passing grade at a 75 is 42. If you want to be considered a master passing grade, and there are no benefits to that except not only ego, but you could speak about your status, that passing grade is 48. And I'll do this again when we get to assessments next time. So if you look at literacy planning rubric, planning for literacy learning, I'll give you a second to find this. It's probably at the end of your packet. So if you look at rubric level 1, planning for literacy learning, this is the lowest level. Candidates' plans focus solely on literacy skills without connections to any strategy for comprehending or composing text. Now, if you noticed, if you recall, and I read it rather quickly, when I read to you the teaching of emphasis by this elementary 5th grade teacher, he or she, there's no name on this, and rightfully so, he or she went way beyond that. Now let me go to level 5. Level 5 includes both 4 and 5. So I'm going to read 4 out to you. Plans for instruction build on each other to create a meaningful context. Notice plans for instruction. So we're speaking about not one lesson plan, we're speaking about a segment of a lesson or a unit. We're speaking about 3 to 5 different types of lesson plan. Plans for instruction, plans, plural, build on each other. So Plan 2 builds on Plan 1. Plan 3 builds on Plans 2 and Plan 1. To create a meaningful context, highlighted, that supports learning of skills with clear and consistent connections to the essential literacy strategy for comprehending or composing text. Comprehending, of course, refers to reading, and composing, of course, refers to the writing. That you need that plus the following to get a level 5. Plans build an authentic connection between reading and writing. Candidate explains how she will use learning tests and materials to lead students to independently apply the essential strategies and identified skills. So, let's say on this one, the rater gives you a 3. So now the highest grade you can get is a 72. Then if you go to rubric 2, planning to support varied students' learning needs. Level 1, there is little or no evidence of plan supports, or candidate does not attend to requirements in IEPs and 504 plans. The difficulty with that, in my experience, is that there are times when IEP plans are not shared with the classroom teacher, but be that as may. Then we go to a level 5, which again composes a level 4, encompasses level 4 and level 5. Again, planning to support varied student learning needs. Plan supports are tied to learning objectives and the central focus. Supports address the needs of specific individuals or groups with similar needs. And candidate attends to requirements in IEPs and 504 plans, plus supports include specific strategies to identify and respond to common developmental approximations or misconceptions. Notice the educational language, and we have to become familiar with that. So remember, you only got a 3 on that first rubric, and let's say on this rubric you get a 2. Now the highest grade you can get is a 70. I hope you see how this is being done. Okay? Rubric 3, using knowledge of students to inform teaching and learning. Level 1, candidates' justification of learning tests is either missing or represents a deficit view of students and their backgrounds. Although this seems to be tough, a good teacher has to take into consideration the different abilities of the students. I'm not going to go to the assessment part, which is the last part, because I want to do that on the next at the next meeting that takes place. But I want to go to, just stay with me for a moment, rubric 5. Planning assessments to monitor and to support student learning. If you recall what I said earlier on, and I believe I said at the last session, assessment appears in task 1 and task 2, and then in task 3, which I'll go through next time, is totally reinforced. But it starts here. The assessment, level 1, only provide evidence of students' use of the skills. That's all. Level 5, the assessments provide multiple forms of evidence to monitor students' use of the essential strategy and skills throughout the learning segment. Notice what it says, multiple forms of evidence. One test or one quiz is not a multiple form of evidence. So you have to consider developing multiple types of assessments to be used in your class. You cannot rely solely on a quiz or solely on a test, a unit test. Okay, you may rely on other things such as an interpretation of reading or interpretation or writing a composition. The assessments are strategically designed to allow individuals or groups with specific needs to demonstrate their learning. Now you're probably saying to yourself, Mr. Napoli, how do we do all these things? Well, throughout all the courses that you've taken here at St. John's University, undergraduate and those of you in the graduate program should be able to do all of these tasks. It's simply an issue of you becoming familiar of what's being required. I'm going to say this again. If this is not clear to you with this didactic presentation, please come to see me or come to see Professor Podota. And when Professor Burke returns from his sick leave, come to see him. Now just go to Rubric 6 for a moment. It's page 25 of 63. Learning environment. Level 1. The clips reveal evidence of disrespectful interactions between teacher and students or between students. So if your clip it reflects that, that's a very low level, especially in light of the fact that the students know they signed off on the right to be videotaped, or their parents did, videotaped. If the clip is revealing that disrespect between you and the students and you, or between students, okay, that's a level 1. We go to level 4. Let me go to level 3 first. The candidate demonstrates rapport with and respect for students. Candidate provides a positive, low-risk social environment that reveals the mutual respect among students. So, and I know you deal with this, as you're dealing with classroom management issues, and you uncover that there's being disrespect being shown to students. If that's uncovered, then you're going to have to deal with that. As you know, in the spring here at St. John's University and at other sites, we'll be offering a mandated 6-hour training session, 3 of which is done online, on bullying and discrimination. You read in the paper every day the issue of bullying and the negative consequences of that, where some students are actually committing suicide as a result of that, or harassment, or discrimination. In many ways, we are fortunate to be teaching in a very, very diverse society. And that bullying does take place, discrimination does take place, but hopefully discrimination among students has decreased. But I say hopefully, but I'm not too sure of that. Learning environment, level 5. The candidate demonstrates rapport with and respect for students. Candidate provides a challenging learning environment that provides opportunities to express varied perspectives and promotes mutual respect among students. Therefore, if you're posing in your development of questions, your questions should not be of such a nature that only requires a one-word answer. And you want to encourage students to have a different perspective, but that perspective, which another word may be opinion, that perspective or opinion has to be backed up with evidence. So, again, if you want a copy of all this now, please email me at napoli@stjohns.edu. Please identify the area of concentration of which you want a copy, and it will be sent to you. I can't say are there any questions, because if there are, I can't answer right now. But thank you very, very much, and the next segment will be done on December 11th. Thank you.